Michael loved football more than anything. He wasn't just good, he was amazing. Everyone in the small town of Crestwood knew Michael Thompson. Friday nights weren't just Friday nights, they were Michael Thompson nights. The whole town would come to watch him play, wearing their Crestwood Cougars jerseys. He was the star quarterback, quick on his feet, with an arm that could launch the ball across the entire field. He dreamed of playing college ball, maybe even going pro someday. He wasn't just a great athlete, he was a great teammate. Always encouraging, always helping others improve. He'd stay late after practice, working with the younger players, showing them tricks and giving them tips. He knew that a team was only as strong as its weakest link, and he wanted everyone to be strong. His coach, Mr. Davis, often said that Michael was the heart and soul of the Cougars. Beyond football, Michael was a good kid. He got good grades, helped his mom around the house, and was always polite and respectful. He volunteered at the local soup kitchen on weekends. He understood that with his talent came responsibility, and he tried to be a positive role model for the younger kids in Crestwood. The excitement in Crestwood was especially high this year. The Cougars were undefeated, and everyone believed they had a real shot at winning the state championship. Michael felt the pressure, but he thrived on it. He loved the feeling of leading his team, of making the big plays, of hearing the roar of the crowd. He knew his team was counting on him. Before every game, Michael had a ritual. He'd put on his lucky socks, his grandma knitted them for him, listen to his favorite pump-up song, and then call his grandpa. His grandpa, a former football player himself, always gave him the same advice: play hard, play fair, and leave everything on the field. Michael took those words to heart. He was ready for the challenge. He was ready to lead his team to victory. He was ready to make Crestwood proud. He knew that with hard work and determination, anything was possible. The upcoming game was against their biggest rival, the Northwood Knights, and the stakes were high. A win would guarantee them a spot in the championship playoffs. The town was buzzing with anticipation. Banners and signs were everywhere, cheering on the Cougars. Michael felt the energy, and it fueled him even more. He knew this game was important, not just for him, but for the entire town. He was determined to give them something to celebrate. The day of the game against the Northwood Knights arrived like a thunderclap. The air crackled with anticipation. The stadium was packed, a sea of blue and white, the Cougars' colors, mixed with the black and gold of the Knights. You could feel the energy radiating from the crowd, a mix of excitement and nervous energy. Michael walked onto the field, and the roar of the crowd washed over him. He took a deep breath, trying to focus on the task at hand. The Knights were a tough team, known for their aggressive defense and powerful running game. Michael knew it wouldn't be easy. He looked around at his teammates, their faces determined. He gave them a nod, a silent message of encouragement. They were ready. The game started fast. The Knights came out strong, driving down the field on their opening possession. Their running back, a bruising player named Jake, seemed unstoppable. The Cougars' defense struggled to contain him. Finally, the Knights scored a touchdown, taking an early lead. Michael knew they needed to respond quickly. He rallied his team, reminding them of their training, their teamwork, their determination. On their first possession, the Cougars marched down the field, Michael making key passes and runs. He connected with his favorite receiver, David, for a long gain, bringing them deep into Knights territory. The Knights' defense tightened, making it difficult to score. After 3 plays, they were facing 4th down and short. Coach Davis called a timeout. He looked at Michael, his eyes filled with confidence. "Michael," he said, "I trust you. Go out there and get it." Michael nodded, feeling the pressure but also the excitement. He knew what he had to do. He lined up behind the center, surveying the defense. He saw an opening, a small gap in the line. He called the play, a quarterback sneak. The ball was snapped, and Michael lunged forward, pushing through the line. He felt the impact of the defenders, but he kept driving, inching his way forward. The crowd was on its feet, screaming. He stretched his arm out, reaching for the first down marker. He made it. The Cougars had converted the fourth down. The crowd erupted. Michael jumped up, pumping his fist in the air. They were still in the game. They were still fighting. He felt a surge of adrenaline, a renewed sense of purpose. He knew they could win this game. He knew they could beat the Knights. They just had to keep playing hard, keep believing in themselves, and keep working together. The game was far from over. The game continued, a back-and-forth battle of wills. The Knights' running game continued to pound the Cougars' defense, while Michael and the Cougars' offense tried to exploit the Knights' weaknesses in the passing game. The score remained close, each team answering the other's touchdowns with their own. Late in the second quarter, with the score tied, the Cougars had the ball near midfield. Michael dropped back to pass, looking for David downfield. He saw David break free from his defender and launched the ball, a perfect spiral heading right for David's outstretched hands. But as Michael released the ball, he was blindsided by a Knights defensive lineman. The lineman's helmet slammed into Michael's right hand, sending a jolt of pain shooting up his arm. Michael crumpled to the ground, clutching his hand. The crowd went silent. The referee blew his whistle, stopping the play. The Cougars' medical staff rushed onto the field to attend to Michael. He tried to get up, but the pain was too intense. He looked at his hand, it was already starting to swell. Fear washed over him. He knew something was seriously wrong. He could feel the bone grinding against itself. He tried to move his fingers, but they wouldn't respond. He looked up at Coach Davis, his eyes filled with panic. Coach Davis knelt beside him, his face etched with concern. "Michael, can you move your hand?" he asked gently. Michael shook his head, tears welling up in his eyes. I don't think so, Coach," he stammered. "It really hurts." Coach Davis signaled to the trainers, who carefully helped Michael off the field and towards the locker room. The crowd applauded weakly, offering their support. Michael felt a wave of disappointment wash over him. He knew his team needed him, but he couldn't play like this. As he walked into the locker room, the team doctor examined his hand. After a few minutes, he looked at Michael with a grave expression. "Michael," he said, "I think you've broken your hand. We'll need to get an X-ray to confirm, but it looks like you're done for the game." Michael's heart sank. His worst fear had come true. He was out. He couldn't help his team. He couldn't lead them to victory. He felt like he had let them down. The dream of the championship suddenly seemed so far away. All the hard work, all the sacrifices, all the hopes and dreams, seemed to shatter in that one moment. He sat alone in the locker room, the pain in his hand a constant reminder of his misfortune. He didn't know what to do. The X-ray confirmed the doctor's diagnosis, a fractured bone in Michael's right hand. The news hit him hard. It wasn't just a sprain or a bruise, it was a break. He knew that meant weeks, maybe even months, of recovery. His season was likely over. Back in the locker room, after his hand was placed in a cast, Michael sat alone, staring blankly at the wall. The sounds of the game filtered in from the field, the cheers, the shouts, the whistles, a constant reminder of what he was missing. He felt a deep sense of disappointment, not just for himself, but for his team, for his town. He thought about all the hard work he had put in, all the hours of practice, all the sacrifices he had made. It all seemed pointless now. He had dreamed of leading his team to the championship, of making his family proud, of proving himself on the field. Now, all those dreams seemed to be slipping away. Tears streamed down his face as he imagined his teammates battling on the field without him. He knew they would fight hard, but he also knew they were counting on him. He was their leader, their quarterback, their inspiration. Without him, their chances of winning seemed much slimmer. He replayed the moment of the injury in his mind, over and over again. He wondered if he could have done something different, if he could have avoided the hit. He felt a surge of anger towards the defensive lineman who had injured him, but he quickly realized that it was just part of the game. Injuries happened. It was nobody's fault. But that didn't make it any easier. He felt a sense of helplessness, a feeling that he had no control over his own destiny. He had always believed that hard work and determination could overcome any obstacle, but this felt different. This felt like an insurmountable challenge. He thought about his future, about his college prospects, about his dreams of playing professional football. Would this injury derail his career? Would colleges still be interested in him? Would he ever be the same player again? The questions swirled in his head, adding to his anxiety and despair. He felt isolated and alone, even though he knew his teammates and coaches were just outside the locker room, fighting for a victory. He wished he could be out there with them, battling alongside them. But he couldn't. He was sidelined, helpless, and heartbroken. The weight of disappointment was almost unbearable. He felt the sting of tears and the ache of his throbbing hand, a constant reminder of his broken dream. He just wanted to disappear. He wanted the pain to stop. He wanted to wake up and find out it was all just a bad dream. But it wasn't a dream. It was reality. And he had to face it. The final whistle blew, signaling the end of the game. Michael heard the roar of the crowd, but he couldn't tell who had won. He waited anxiously in the locker room, his heart pounding in his chest. Finally, Coach Davis walked in, his face grim. "We lost, Michael," he said softly. "They beat us by 3 points." Michael's heart sank. He had let his team down. He knew they had fought hard, but without him, they couldn't pull out the victory. He closed his eyes, feeling a wave of guilt wash over him. "It's not your fault, Michael," Coach Davis said, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You couldn't help what happened. We'll be okay. We'll learn from this and come back stronger." But Michael couldn't shake the feeling that he was responsible for the loss. He was the team's leader, and he had failed them. He had let down his teammates, his coaches, his family, and his town. The weight of that responsibility was crushing. Later that night, Michael couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned in his bed, replaying the game in his mind. He kept thinking about the plays he could have made, the passes he could have thrown, the runs he could have dodged. He felt a deep sense of frustration and anger, not just at himself, but at the situation. He knew he had to find a way to cope with his disappointment and frustration. He couldn't let it consume him. He had to find a way to turn this setback into an opportunity. He had to find a way to help his team, even if he couldn't play. He thought about his teammates, about how much they were hurting after the loss. He knew they were looking to him for leadership, even now. He couldn't let them see him give up. He had to be strong for them, even if he didn't feel strong inside. He got out of bed and walked to his desk. He pulled out a notebook and started writing down his thoughts and feelings. He wrote about his disappointment, his frustration, his fears. He wrote about his hopes and dreams, about his determination to overcome this obstacle. As he wrote, he began to feel a sense of clarity and purpose. He realized that his injury didn't have to define him. He could still contribute to his team in other ways. He could still be a leader, even from the sidelines. He could still support his teammates and help them improve. He decided that he would focus on his recovery, on getting his hand healed as quickly as possible. He would attend every practice, every game, every team meeting. He would study game film, help Coach Davis with strategy, and mentor the younger players. He would do everything he could to help his team win, even if he couldn't be on the field. He resolved to turn his sadness into strength. He would not let this injury defeat him. He would come back stronger than ever. The next morning, Michael woke up feeling sore and stiff. His hand throbbed with pain, a constant reminder of his injury. He went downstairs for breakfast, where his mom was waiting for him. She had made his favorite breakfast, pancakes with strawberries and whipped cream. "Good morning, sweetie," she said, giving him a warm hug. "How are you feeling?" Michael forced a smile. "Okay, Mom," he said, even though he felt far from okay. "Your dad and I are so proud of you, Michael," she said. "We know how much football means to you, but we're even more proud of the kind of person you are. You're a good teammate, a good student, and a good son. Don't let this injury define you." His dad walked into the kitchen, giving Michael a pat on the back. "Your mom's right, son," he said. "This is just a temporary setback. You'll get through it. We're here for you, no matter what." Later that day, Michael's friends came over to visit. David, his favorite receiver, was the first to arrive. "Hey, man," David said, giving him a fist bump with his good hand. "We missed you out there. It wasn't the same without you." "Thanks, David," Michael said. "I missed you guys too. I wish I could have been out there with you." "We know, man," David said. "But we're gonna win this thing for you. We're gonna win the championship, and we're gonna dedicate it to you." Other teammates came by throughout the day, offering their support and encouragement. They all told Michael how much they appreciated him and how much they missed having him on the field. Their words meant a lot to Michael, and they helped him to feel less alone. Coach Davis also stopped by to check on Michael. "How are you holding up, Michael?" he asked. "I'm doing okay, Coach," Michael said. "It's tough, but I'm trying to stay positive." "That's the spirit, Michael," Coach Davis said. "I know this is a difficult time for you, but I have no doubt that you'll come back stronger than ever. You're a fighter, Michael. You've always been a fighter. And I know you're not going to give up now." Coach Davis told Michael that he wanted him to stay involved with the team, even though he couldn't play. He asked him to attend practices, help with strategy, and mentor the younger players. Michael was grateful for the opportunity to stay connected to the team. The support from his family, friends, and coach meant the world to Michael. It helped him to realize that he wasn't alone in this struggle. He had a strong support system behind him, people who believed in him and cared about him. Their love and encouragement gave him the strength to face the challenges ahead. He knew that with their help, he could overcome anything. After a few days of feeling sorry for himself, Michael knew he had to make a choice. He could either wallow in his disappointment and let the injury consume him, or he could choose to fight back and make the best of the situation. He thought about his team, his family, and his friends, and he knew that he couldn't let them down. He decided to focus all his energy on two things, his recovery and supporting his team. He made a commitment to work hard in physical therapy, to follow the doctor's orders, and to do everything he could to get his hand healed as quickly as possible. He also resolved to be the best teammate he could be, even from the sidelines. He started attending every practice, even though it was difficult to watch his teammates play without him. He sat on the bench, observing the plays, offering encouragement, and providing advice whenever he could. He became a mentor to the younger players, sharing his knowledge and experience. He also spent hours studying game film with Coach Davis, analyzing the team's strengths and weaknesses, and developing strategies for upcoming games. He became an invaluable asset to the coaching staff, offering a unique perspective from a player's point of view. He even started helping with practices, running drills and demonstrating techniques with his good hand. He found that he could still contribute to the team, even though he couldn't throw a football. His enthusiasm and dedication inspired his teammates, and they began to see him as a leader, even in his injured state. The team started to rally around Michael. They saw how hard he was working, how much he cared, and how determined he was to help them succeed. They were inspired by his positive attitude and his unwavering commitment. They knew that he was still a part of the team, even if he couldn't be on the field. The Cougars won their next few games, thanks in part to Michael's contributions from the sidelines. He helped Coach Davis develop winning strategies, he mentored the younger players, and he provided unwavering support to his teammates. He proved that he was a true leader, both on and off the field. Michael's decision to focus on recovery and support his team transformed him. He went from feeling helpless and hopeless to feeling empowered and purposeful. He realized that his injury didn't have to define him. He could still make a difference, even from the sidelines. He learned the true meaning of teamwork, leadership, and perseverance. He understood that even in the face of adversity, it was possible to find strength, purpose, and hope. And he knew that he would come back stronger than ever. Michael's recovery was a long and arduous process. The first few weeks were the most difficult. His hand was in a cast, and he couldn't do much of anything. He had to rely on his mom to help him with everyday tasks, like getting dressed and eating. He felt helpless and frustrated, but he knew he had to be patient. Once the cast came off, the real work began. He started physical therapy, working with a therapist named Sarah. Sarah was tough but encouraging. She pushed Michael to his limits, but she also made sure he didn't overdo it. The physical therapy sessions were grueling. Michael had to do a variety of exercises to regain strength and flexibility in his hand. He squeezed a stress ball, twisted a Rubik's Cube, and lifted small weights. The exercises were painful and repetitive, but Michael never gave up. He knew that every rep, every set, was bringing him closer to his goal of returning to the field. There were days when Michael felt like giving up. His hand throbbed with pain, and he was bored with the routine. He missed playing football, and he longed for the feeling of the ball in his hand. But he knew that he couldn't quit. He had made a commitment to his team, and he wasn't going to let them down. He found ways to make the physical therapy sessions more bearable. He listened to music, watched sports on TV, and chatted with Sarah about football. He also set small goals for himself, like increasing the number of reps he could do or lifting heavier weights. Slowly but surely, Michael's hand began to heal. He regained strength and flexibility, and the pain started to subside. He was making progress, and he could feel it. His hard work was paying off. Sarah was impressed with Michael's dedication and determination. She told him that he was one of the most motivated patients she had ever worked with. She knew that he would do whatever it took to get back on the field. As the weeks passed, Michael's hand continued to improve. He was able to do more and more exercises, and he started to feel like his old self again. He was getting closer to his goal of returning to the field. He could almost taste it. He was determined to make it back in time for the playoffs. The championship was within reach. And he was going to do everything in his power to get there. His commitment to recovery never wavered. He was ready for anything. He was ready to be back. While Michael's body was healing, he also focused on sharpening his mental game. He knew that even if he couldn't physically play, he could still contribute to the team's success by using his mind. He spent countless hours studying game film, analyzing the opposing team's defenses and identifying their weaknesses. He looked for patterns, tendencies, and vulnerabilities that the Cougars could exploit. He became a master strategist, able to anticipate the opponent's moves and devise counter-strategies. He shared his insights with Coach Davis, who was impressed with Michael's knowledge and understanding of the game. Coach Davis started relying on Michael's input when developing game plans. Michael's ability to analyze the game from a different perspective proved to be invaluable. He also spent time mentoring the younger players, especially the backup quarterback, Tom. Tom was a talented player, but he lacked experience and confidence. Michael took Tom under his wing, teaching him how to read defenses, make quick decisions, and lead the team. He shared his knowledge and experience, helping Tom to develop into a more complete quarterback. Michael's mentorship helped Tom to grow as a player and as a leader. Tom became more confident, more decisive, and more effective on the field. He was grateful for Michael's guidance and support. He knew that Michael was helping him to reach his full potential. Michael also worked with the receivers, helping them to improve their routes, their catching skills, and their understanding of the playbook. He spent hours throwing passes to them with his good hand, helping them to refine their techniques. He became a valuable asset to the team, not just as a player, but as a coach, a mentor, and a strategist. He proved that he could still contribute to the team's success, even without being on the field. The other players respected Michael's dedication and commitment. They saw how hard he was working to help the team, and they were inspired by his positive attitude. They knew that he was still a leader, even in his injured state. Michael's mental game became just as strong as his physical game. He was able to use his mind to overcome his limitations and make a significant contribution to the team. He learned that true leadership wasn't just about being the best player on the field, it was about helping others to be their best. He embraced his role as a mentor and a strategist, and he became an invaluable asset to the Cougars. The team's success was now tied to Michael's mental strength as much as to anyone's physical prowess. The Cougars faced a challenging stretch of games without Michael on the field. The first game after his injury was against a tough opponent, the Riverside Rams. The team struggled to find their rhythm without their star quarterback. Tom, the backup quarterback, did his best, but he lacked Michael's experience and poise. The Rams' defense pressured him relentlessly, and the Cougars' offense sputtered. They lost the game by a narrow margin. The loss was a wake-up call for the team. They realized that they couldn't rely solely on Michael's talent to win games. They had to step up and play as a team. They had to trust each other, support each other, and work together. In the following weeks, the Cougars faced a series of ups and downs. They won some games, but they also lost some. They struggled to find consistency, and they often made mistakes. But they never gave up. They kept fighting, kept learning, and kept improving. Michael's support was crucial during this time. He attended every game, cheering on his teammates from the sidelines. He offered encouragement, provided advice, and helped to keep their spirits high. He reminded them that they were still a great team, even without him on the field. He worked closely with Tom, helping him to prepare for each game. He studied game film with Tom, analyzed the opposing defenses, and developed strategies to exploit their weaknesses. He helped Tom to become more confident, more decisive, and more effective. The Cougars also made some adjustments to their offense, relying more on their running game and their defense. They focused on playing smart, disciplined football, minimizing mistakes, and taking advantage of opportunities. Slowly but surely, the Cougars began to find their stride. They started to play with more confidence, more cohesion, and more determination. They started to win games, and they started to believe in themselves. Michael's influence was evident in the team's progress. His leadership, his knowledge, and his support helped them to overcome their challenges and to reach their full potential. He proved that he was still a valuable asset to the team, even though he couldn't physically play. The Cougars' journey without Michael was a testament to their resilience, their teamwork, and their determination. They faced adversity, they overcame obstacles, and they emerged stronger as a result. They learned that they could achieve anything they set their minds to, as long as they worked together and believed in themselves. Michael's injury brought them closer together as a team. The experience made them stronger. They were ready to win. The Cougars fought their way through the playoffs, winning tough games against formidable opponents. With each victory, the excitement in Crestwood grew. The dream of the championship was becoming more and more real. But as the championship game drew closer, Michael's recovery remained uncertain. His hand was healing, but he still wasn't back to full strength. He could throw the ball, but his accuracy and power were not where they used to be. He continued to work hard in physical therapy, pushing himself to his limits, but he knew that time was running out. He felt a mix of hope and anxiety. He desperately wanted to play in the championship game, to lead his team to victory. But he also knew that he couldn't risk re-injuring his hand. He had to be smart, and he had to trust the doctors. Coach Davis was supportive and understanding. He told Michael that he would make the best decision for the team, regardless of Michael's playing status. He assured Michael that he was still a valuable part of the team, even if he couldn't play. The suspense mounted as the championship game approached. The town was buzzing with anticipation. Everyone was wondering if Michael would be able to play. Rumors swirled, and speculation was rampant. Michael tried to stay focused on his recovery and on supporting his team. He continued to study game film, to help Coach Davis with strategy, and to mentor the younger players. He knew that he had to be ready, whether he played or not. The week before the championship game was filled with tension and uncertainty. Michael had a final appointment with the doctor to determine his playing status. He went to the appointment with a mix of hope and trepidation. He knew that his future, and perhaps his team's future, depended on the doctor's decision. He waited anxiously in the waiting room, his heart pounding in his chest. He replayed the season in his mind, remembering the highs and the lows, the victories and the defeats. He thought about his teammates, his coaches, his family, and his friends. He knew that they were all counting on him. Finally, the doctor called his name. He took a deep breath and walked into the examination room, ready to face his destiny. The championship was almost here. Would he be on the field? The answer was moments away. He just needed to be patient. The doctor would know what to do. The town needed to know if their star player would lead them to victory, or watch from the bench. The pressure was on. The suspense was palpable. The doctor examined Michael's hand carefully, checking its strength, flexibility, and range of motion. He reviewed the X-rays, looking for any signs of weakness or instability. Michael held his breath, waiting for the verdict. Finally, the doctor looked up at Michael and smiled. "Michael," he said, "I have good news. Your hand has healed remarkably well. You're cleared to play in the championship game." Michael's heart leaped with joy. He couldn't believe it. He was going to play in the championship game. He thanked the doctor profusely, his voice filled with emotion. However, the doctor continued, "I have to caution you. Your hand is still not 100%. You're cleared to play, but only in a limited role. You can't take any unnecessary risks. You need to protect your hand." Michael understood. He knew that he couldn't go out there and play like he used to. He had to be smart, and he had to be careful. He was cleared to play, but only in a limited role. It was better than nothing. He left the doctor's office with a mix of excitement and nervousness. He was ecstatic to be able to play, but he was also worried about re-injuring his hand. He knew that he had to be cautious, but he also knew that he had to give it his all. He called Coach Davis to share the news. Coach Davis was thrilled. He told Michael that he was proud of him for his hard work and dedication. He assured Michael that he would use him wisely in the game. Michael shared the news with his teammates, his family, and his friends. They were all overjoyed. They knew how much this meant to him. They were all proud of him for overcoming his injury and for earning the chance to play in the championship game. The days leading up to the championship game were filled with anticipation. Michael practiced with the team, getting reacquainted with the plays and working on his timing. He wore a special brace on his hand to protect it from further injury. He felt a surge of adrenaline as he stepped onto the field for the championship game. The stadium was packed with fans, and the atmosphere was electric. He looked around at his teammates, their faces filled with determination. He knew that they were ready. He was cleared to play, but only in a limited role. It was up to him to make the most of his opportunity. He was ready to give it his all. He was ready to lead his team to victory. He was both ecstatic and nervous. This was his moment. He would not let them down. The championship game was held in the Cougars' home stadium, but it felt like the entire state had descended upon Crestwood. The stands were packed to capacity, a sea of blue and white mixed with the opposing team's colors, the crimson and gold of the capital city Eagles. The air crackled with excitement and nervous energy. The atmosphere was electric. The roar of the crowd was deafening, a constant wave of noise that washed over the field. Banners and signs waved in the air, and the scent of popcorn and hot dogs filled the air. It was a scene straight out of a movie. The capital city Eagles were a formidable opponent. They were the defending champions, and they had a reputation for being a tough, physical team. Their quarterback was a star player, and their defense was one of the best in the state. The game started slowly. Both teams were cautious, feeling each other out, trying to avoid mistakes. The defenses dominated early, and neither team was able to score. The tension was palpable. As the game progressed, the intensity increased. The hits became harder, the plays became more aggressive, and the stakes became higher. The score remained close, with neither team able to pull away. Tom, the Cougars' quarterback, played well, managing the game effectively and making some key throws. But the Eagles' defense was relentless, and they made it difficult for him to find open receivers. Michael watched from the sidelines, his heart pounding in his chest. He desperately wanted to be out there on the field, leading his team to victory. But he knew that he had to be patient, and he had to trust Coach Davis's plan. The fourth quarter began with the score tied. The Cougars had the ball, but they were deep in their own territory. They needed to drive down the field and score, but the Eagles' defense was determined to stop them. The tension was unbearable. The crowd was on its feet, screaming and cheering. Every play was crucial, every decision was critical. The championship was on the line. The Eagles' defense was tough. They knew the Cougars' plays. They had to do something different. The coach looked at Michael. It was time. It was Michael's moment. The crowd waited with bated breath. This was what they came for. The tension could be cut with a knife. This was it. It was time. The game was close, and it was time to risk it all. It was time for Michael. The coach signaled him to get ready. Michael started to stretch. The crowd roared. They knew what was coming. Michael jogged onto the field, the roar of the crowd washing over him. He felt a surge of adrenaline, a mix of excitement and determination. This was his moment. He wasn't going to let it pass him by. He huddled with his teammates, their faces filled with anticipation. He looked into their eyes, and he saw the same fire, the same desire to win. He knew that they were ready to fight alongside him. "All right, guys," he said, his voice calm and confident. "Let's go out there and show them what we're made of. Let's play with heart, let's play with passion, and let's bring home the championship." The Cougars lined up on the field, facing the Eagles' defense. Michael took the snap and dropped back to pass. He scanned the field, looking for an open receiver. He saw David break free from his defender and launched the ball, a perfect spiral heading right for David's outstretched hands. David made the catch, and the Cougars had a first down. The crowd erupted, cheering and screaming. Michael pumped his fist in the air, feeling the energy of the moment. The Cougars continued to drive down the field, mixing runs and passes, keeping the Eagles' defense off balance. Michael made smart decisions, protecting his hand and avoiding unnecessary risks. He knew that he couldn't play like he used to, but he could still make a difference. The Eagles' defense tightened as the Cougars approached the red zone. They knew that they had to stop them from scoring. The pressure was on. On third down and goal, Michael called a timeout. He huddled with Coach Davis, discussing their options. They decided to run a trick play, a play that they had practiced but never used in a game. Michael lined up behind the center, surveying the defense. He saw an opening, a small gap in the line. He called the play, a quarterback sneak with a twist. The ball was snapped, and Michael lunged forward, pushing through the line. But instead of running with the ball, he flipped it backwards to the running back, who was lined up behind him. The running back took the ball and ran around the end, catching the Eagles' defense completely off guard. He sprinted towards the end zone, diving across the goal line for a touchdown. The crowd went wild. The Cougars had scored a touchdown, taking the lead with only a few minutes left in the game. The Cougars were winning. The stadium erupted. The coach patted Michael on the back. He knew he had made the right decision. It was Michael's moment. The crowd cheered his name. The other team was stunned. They didn't see that coming. The Cougars had done it. They had broken through. It was all up to the defense now. They had to hold the Eagles back. It was almost over. The Eagles received the kickoff and began their final drive, desperate to tie the game or take the lead. Their quarterback, known for his strong arm and quick decision-making, led the charge. The Cougars' defense, fueled by the energy of the crowd and Michael's inspiring performance, fought with everything they had. They pressured the quarterback, disrupted his passes, and made crucial tackles. But the Eagles were relentless. They managed to drive down the field, inching their way closer to the end zone. The clock was ticking down, and the tension was unbearable. With only seconds remaining, the Eagles were on the Cougars' 20-yard line. It was 4th down and long. They needed a miracle to score. The Eagles' quarterback dropped back to pass, looking for an open receiver. He saw his favorite target streaking down the middle of the field and launched the ball, a high, arcing pass heading right for the receiver's hands. But just as the receiver was about to make the catch, Michael, who was playing safety, came flying out of nowhere. He leaped into the air, reaching out with his good hand and deflecting the ball at the last possible second. The ball fell harmlessly to the ground, incomplete. The Cougars had stopped the Eagles. The game was over. The crowd erupted in a frenzy of celebration. The Cougars had won the championship. They had overcome adversity, they had fought with heart and passion, and they had achieved their dream. Michael was mobbed by his teammates, who lifted him onto their shoulders and carried him off the field. He was a hero, not just for his performance in the game, but for his leadership, his dedication, and his unwavering commitment to his team. He had made a crucial play, a play that had saved the game and brought the championship to Crestwood. He had proven that even with a broken hand, he could still make a difference. He was a champion, both on and off the field. He had helped the team win. He had done it. They were number one. The town would never forget this moment. Michael was a legend. It was all thanks to his hard work and dedication. He had overcome the odds. He had persevered. And now, he was a champion. It was a dream come true. The crowd chanted his name. He was the hero of Crestwood. He had led them to victory. He had made them proud. He was Michael Thompson, the champion. The celebration in Crestwood was unlike anything the town had ever seen. The streets were filled with people, cheering, singing, and dancing. Fireworks lit up the night sky, painting the town in a kaleidoscope of colors. The Cougars were hailed as heroes. They had overcome adversity, they had fought with heart and passion, and they had brought the championship to Crestwood. They were the pride of the town. Michael was the center of attention. He was mobbed by fans who wanted to shake his hand, take his picture, and congratulate him on his performance. He was overwhelmed by the outpouring of love and support. He was recognized for his hard work, his dedication, and his unwavering commitment to his team. He was praised for his leadership, his sportsmanship, and his positive attitude. He was a role model for the younger players, and he was an inspiration to the entire town. The team held a parade through the streets of Crestwood, riding on an open-top bus, waving to the cheering crowds. Michael stood at the front of the bus, holding the championship trophy high above his head. He was overjoyed. He had dreamed of this moment for years, and now it was finally a reality. He had overcome adversity, he had fought through pain, and he had helped his team achieve their ultimate goal. He was a champion. The celebration continued late into the night, with parties, bonfires, and gatherings all over town. Michael attended several parties, thanking his teammates, his coaches, his family, and his friends for their support. He knew that he couldn't have done it without them. He had relied on their love, their encouragement, and their guidance. He was grateful for everything they had done for him. He looked around at the celebrating crowd, at the smiling faces, at the joyous atmosphere. He felt a sense of pride, a sense of accomplishment, and a sense of belonging. He was a part of something special, something that would stay with him forever. He was Michael Thompson, the quarterback, the leader, the champion. He had helped his team win the championship. He had made his town proud. He had achieved his dream. He was on top of the world. The celebration was a testament to the power of teamwork, the importance of perseverance, and the magic of sports. It was a night that Crestwood would never forget. The town was united in joy. It was a perfect moment. Michael had earned it. He deserved it. He was the hero. He was the champion. He was loved. He was respected. He was Michael Thompson. The town was celebrating. They were champions. Weeks later, as the excitement subsided and life in Crestwood returned to normal, Michael had time to reflect on everything that had happened. He thought about the injury, the disappointment, the hard work, and the ultimate triumph. He realized that he had learned valuable lessons about perseverance, teamwork, and believing in himself. He had discovered that true strength wasn't just about physical ability, it was also about mental toughness, emotional resilience, and the ability to inspire others. He had learned that adversity could be an opportunity for growth, a chance to discover hidden strengths and to develop new skills. He had learned that teamwork was essential for success, that no one could achieve greatness alone. He had learned that believing in himself was crucial, that he had to have faith in his abilities, even when things were difficult. He had learned that anything was possible, as long as he was willing to work hard, stay positive, and never give up. He thought about his future, about his college prospects, about his dreams of playing professional football. He knew that the road ahead would be challenging, but he was confident that he could overcome any obstacle. He had proven to himself that he was capable of anything. He had learned that he was stronger, more resilient, and more determined than he ever thought possible. He knew that he would face more challenges in his life, but he was ready for them. He had the tools, the skills, and the mindset to succeed. He was grateful for the experience, for the lessons he had learned, and for the people who had supported him along the way. He knew that he would never forget this chapter in his life. He was Michael Thompson, the champion. He had overcome adversity, he had led his team to victory, and he had become a better person in the process. He was ready for anything. The future was bright. He was a champion. He knew that the lessons he had learned would stay with him forever, guiding him through life's challenges and inspiring him to achieve his dreams. He was grateful for the experience. He looked forward to the future, knowing that he could face any obstacle with courage, determination, and the unwavering belief in himself and his team. He was Michael Thompson, a champion in every sense of the word. He knew that this was just the beginning. He was ready for the next chapter. He was ready to take on the world. He was ready to make a difference. He was Michael Thompson. He knew that he had learned valuable lessons about perseverance, teamwork, and believing in himself. The end.